Hey there, and welcome to Time to Lean, the podcast where you air your dirty laundry and we help you clean up your shit. I'm Crystal Britt.
And I'm Laura Danger. Think of us as your household secret weapon, taking your questions and voicemails to navigate the wild world of gender norms and household dynamics.
We dive headfirst into the nitty-gritty of how broader social issues impact our everyday lives.
So don't be shy. Send us your dirty laundry.
And we'll help you clean up your shit.
This is Time to Lean. Hey there. Welcome back. This is Time to Lean with Laura and Crystal.
Hello.
How are you, Crystal?
I'm scattered this morning. I was sick last week, and so I feel like I'm like, what day is it? Tuesday? It's definitely Thursday.
Is it?
So I feel very scattered. I feel very like, where am I? What day is it? What am I supposed to be doing? If I didn't have a calendar.
No, this week is disorienting, and like back to school is still weird. And this is the week of Labor Day weekend, which is weird.
Oh, that's right. We lost a day. That's right.
Yeah.
I do keep forgetting that we did lose a day, which I would be confused about what day it is anyway. But also because we lost, a work day.
It's a weird one. Okay. I mean, let's jump right into it. We have, you all really liked last week's Am I the Asshole? And it was it was so good. So if you didn't hear it, it was an Am I the Asshole for filing for divorce because my husband over tightens the lids.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like overall, everyone decided not the asshole.
Yeah.
But the conversation that we had about it, as you all know, was meandering.
Listen, it was an hour and a half of one of the most popular episodes we've had. So I'm just saying it pulled us back into the Apple podcast charts. So if it was meandering, we did a really good job connecting with our audience. So
yeah, it was really good. There was a lot to talk about. It's one of those things where like, it seems like such a small deal to be annoyed about someone who over tightens the lids, but it points to a much bigger issue, which we love.
Yes. Pointing to a much bigger issue and the nuance of that and taking like that validating of like, is this something to be upset about? Like, is this okay to be upset about? And the isolation of that and not having anybody to bounce that off of, for sure.
Yeah. And I think that's what's so great about Am I the Assholes? Because it's usually someone who's like, I don't know, everyone else is telling me I'm being totally unreasonable, or the person that is involved with this makes me feel like I'm unreasonable. So we pulled another one. And Crystal, you're going to read it, right?
Yes. I'm super excited just based on the title alone. Okay. So am I the asshole for refusing to wake my boyfriend up in the morning, which made him almost lose his job?
Okay, pause.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No. No. Like if I had to throw a stamp on it based on the title, no.
You
don't. No, absolutely not the asshole. Is he paying you to do that? Like, no. Like that's right. That's his responsibility.
The only circumstance, this is where it's like, okay, it's boiled down. So it's like, we're going to have to hear. So, okay, did you tell him you were going to?
Right.
Like, did you say that you were going to and then you didn't?
Right. Was it an agreed upon thing?
Mm-hmm. Right. Is this a situation where it's like an accommodation you two have made for him to support him?
Because that's a different situation. Yeah. Right? Yes.
But we'll 100%. See.
Okay. Oh, I can already see ADHD. So now I kind of feel like an asshole. Okay. So so it starts. So I, 25 female, have been with my boyfriend, 25 male, for almost a year. And during our entire relationship, he has struggled with waking up in the morning because of his ADHD. He sleeps through all of his alarms, which usually means he's late for work. Sometimes it's only 10 to 15 minutes, but it can also stretch to an hour. His boss likes him and has given him plenty of chances. But yesterday he got his last warning that if he doesn't show up on time, he will lose his job. We've had a couple of discussions / arguments about this over the last year because he believes it's my responsibility as his girlfriend to wake him up, but I don't. Despite me waking up from his alarms and being able to shove him out of bed if need be, I don't think it's my responsibility. He is an adult, has known about his ADHD since he was a child, and should by now have found some method that works. Him making it my responsibility turns me into a caregiver, a mother, instead of a girlfriend. This doesn't mean I refuse to help him whatsoever. I've done plenty of research to find alternative methods, but either it didn't work or he refuses to do it. I do wake him when his alarms go off, but he decides to go back to sleep right after. Had he not done that, I would gladly wake him up every single day. I know that this is only my perspective and is most likely not true from his. But when he decides to just go back to sleep, it makes it seem like he doesn't want to try. Not to mention the fact that he is especially grumpy / angry in the mornings and have on several occasions yelled at me for both waking him up and for not waking him up. And I don't want to help if he's just going to get mad. And then in parentheses, even though I know he doesn't mean it. But when his boss gave him his last warning yesterday, I felt so much guilt because had I woken him up and been persistent, he wouldn't be in this situation. So I'm at an impasse. Is it my responsibility? Am I in the wrong for not helping? Or should he, as an adult, be able to do this by himself? Because I kind of feel like I am the asshole, but also not. Do you want me to read the edit or do you want me to wait? Okay, I'll wait.
Yeah, let's wait. With that context now, what do you think?
Still not the asshole. No.
Why?
Okay, and I also understand the guilt that she feels because this is the dynamic that happens in relationships very easily where you want your partner to succeed. You cannot want for your partner to succeed more than they want themselves to succeed. Or like the will to change or the motivation to change. When we talk about motivational interviewing as like a therapeutic intervention, motivational interviewing, I've talked a little bit about here on before, but stages of change exist on a scale. And if he is not in a place, you can't make someone be at a place where they want to tip the scales into action. You can't do that. You can't go from a contemplative stage to an action stage. You can't make someone do that. They have to do that internally or else the change won't hold, right? So when we're kids, we have to have that modeled for us because we have to have examples, but the intrinsic motivation to do that comes later. And yeah, like some people do, I have to have my Adderall to do that. I have to have the right amount. You and I were talking last week. I had to increase my dosage of Prozac because I was like, something's not working, right? But I can't wait until I've been in bed for 3 weeks and can't get out of bed for Ben to go and then to blame Ben and be like, why didn't you tell me I should up my dosage? He's not responsible for that. He doesn't know how much Prozac I take.
Right.
You know what I mean? That'd be bonkers.
That's the thing is like him noticing like, hey, you're acting off, like something is going on. Also, it's like kind of affecting the rest. Like I'm worried about you. It's affecting the rest of the family. And you snapping at him about telling you and then refusing the support or not doing anything with that information. That's the part here that like, okay, so spoiler alert, I talk about something very nuanced like this in my book. A similar situation, somebody that I spoke to had something like this happen. And what this person in the Am I the Asshole says is like, I'm not helping. I did a ton of research on this for him and presented it. What he's doing here, I know this always comes off like a strong word and we've used it before, but it's an entitlement. It's an assumption that this person, he thinks I should do it because I'm his girlfriend, because that's what they do.
Right. And
I think that this gets really tricky. It gets really tricky when the consequences fall on her, or if you have kids, where it's like, okay, now you're going to lose your job and now we don't have enough money to pay our bills.
Right.
And so what are you going to do? You're going to be mad at me and I'm going to be mad at you because you like, it's that failure to put in the effort that hurts everybody, but the responsibility and blame fell to someone who was giving their best effort, but the other person wasn't. Right.
Yes. And in this situation, she cannot stand in for him at work. Right? Like that is what hinges on the finances and the problem of now it has escalated to a point where if he doesn't show up for work on time, his boss is going to let him go. Well, she can't show up for him at work, which tells me then the alarm and waking him up and making sure that he gets up and making sure that he gets out the door to work. Like, how far does her responsibility go? Does she need to like ride with him to work, drive him to work, drop him off, walk him into the building? Like, she can't. We
can make a ton of assumptions about what's going on here. Because I feel like, I know my mom listens to this. She had to do the hell out of this with me. Like as a teenager, I slept through alarms. I didn't wake up. I was always like, I would like stay up all night and then sleep all day. Mind you, neither of us knew I had bipolar 2 or ADHD. So like I would have like bouts of depression that lasted a year and would not be able to get out of bed. And it would just come off like I was lazy or not trying.
Right.
And I think that she did try really hard to like coach me through that. And she tried to teach me personal responsibility. She tried to teach me all of those things. And I failed. I mean, I failed out of high school. I don't know if I did not graduate high school. And I had to like finish up credits post fake graduation, to actually get my diploma. And I learned an incredibly valuable lesson. And the same thing happened. Oh my gosh, today's my 9-year sober anniversary.
Congratulations. 9 years is a long time.
It is.
Great job.
But sometimes I would drink too much and then I would be late for work, or I would have a panic attack because I was like, I would have that hangover anxiety the next day, and then I would miss work, even for people who I really liked and who were really nice to me, and I missed work.
Yeah.
Could someone have called me? Could someone have helped me? Could someone have cut me off the night before? Absolutely. I would have yelled at them for doing that.
Right. I would not have liked that.
No. But it's not anyone else's responsibility ultimately. And I think like what we said before, did they agree to that? Is that the setup? Is he really saying like, I'm truly incapable of this despite all, like I've also researched it. You've researched it. We've tried I had that alarm clock from like Hammock or Schlemmer or whatever the hell, where it was like the wheels.
What is it? Brookline.
Brookline.
God damn it. Like
Sharper Image.
Sharper Image. Thank you. Yes. Adjacent. Yes.
And it was like it had wheels on it.
Where it run away from you?
It. Yes. So like, I get it. Fully get it. We set off like 7 snoozes every morning.
My sister, the other day, we were talking about one of my kids having a hard time, and as she's the one where I'm like, ADHD, inattentive like me, and my sister was like, we shared a room for a really long time, and I slept on a pull-out trundle when we shared a room together in high school, and she's like, no, Crystal, I can remember you just sitting up, because this was before we had cell phones. I wasn't on my phone. She's like, you would just sit there, you would be sat up in bed just with your eyes closed or like staring at the wall. And I'd be like, she's gonna make us fucking late for school. She's gonna make us late for school. Yeah. And I was like, I totally remember doing that. I totally remember being like, I can't, I'm still like that.
Yeah.
I'm still like that.
Yeah. It drives Jack crazy that in the mornings, my 8-year-old and I just lay on the ground together and just like, we just like
pet the cat.
I go, hi, baby. Hello, birdie. What you doing? We're just like both of us. And then, this morning she was playing.
That meme. It's that meme. Do you know you have 30 minutes? Do you know you have 30 minutes?
Exactly. Totally relatable. Totally get it.
Oh my God. I wish I could be that laid back.
But what I was saying about, I don't think that boys, I think that this is that whole thing that we see all of the time where it's like boy mom. And there's the book Boy Mom, which Crystal and I both found very thought provoking. We both had a lot of good conversations about. But the idea that we like we underestimate boys a lot. We underestimate a lot of our kids. That's what you're saying, is like we rob them of the ability to do so many things, or skill practice or skill development.
And part of that, I think too, I have to say, I don't sit here like hoity toity, like, well, clearly, like, you need to let your kids be uncomfortable and struggle. Like, I think that it comes a lot of times from a very good place of like, I don't want to repeat the generational cycles and patterns that I felt as a kid to put this pressure on my kids. So I want them to know I'm able to help. I had to have my therapist be like, hey, it's okay for him to be uncomfortable. It's okay for them to fail at something. It's okay for them to be upset, right? Like, that is a valuable lesson, right? And so I have had to work through that and I texted you last week about a different kid that I'm like, they're really anxious about this and I don't know how to fix it. And you were like, you don't have to fix it. Here's how you can navigate them through it, right? Because it's like, but I think sometimes it's even unintentional, even when you're trying to be the best parent that you can. Those are valuable lessons for them. There was a book that was one of the elective readings when I was in college called The Lessons of a Skinned Knee, that pulled from Jewish storytelling. It was written by a rabbi, I believe, but Jewish storytelling that taught about the value of allowing your kids to try and fail and hurt. And that there is something about that kind of clean pain that is valuable, so that they're not losing their job or one warning away from losing their job because they've been so perpetually late and they're actually blaming it on their girlfriend.
Right. Yeah. Placing the blame. It's that self-advocacy. I think I told you, what's the prayer? The serenity prayer. The serenity prayer. How does it go?
God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah. That's a sobriety thing. That's a sobriety thing. And I really like, didn't you say something like accountability is not always a word that people take well? But yeah, it for me taught me a lot of like self-advocacy and accountability for that one, which like it helped me discern, okay, grant me and personally, I'm not a religious person, but I like the idea of, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Okay. Can I change this? Like, that's the question. Can I change this? If so, how? And then it's the courage to change the things I can. Okay. If I think that I can change this, I need to self-reflect and understand that I have some work to do, or be brave enough to. And in this case, it's a lot of times for me, it's like asking for help. It's thinking critically about my role in things. And then the wisdom to know the difference. And that's to me like acceptance, or knowing when to quit, or it's just like the wisdom to know the difference is discernment and self-trust.
Right.
So I think that this is really like, if I could encapsulate like the idea of self-responsibility or good faith effort.
Yeah.
And I like this framing, because it's not only just like a good faith effort being like, well, I tried.
Right.
I tried. Can't do it. Tried.
Right.
It's like, okay, I'm going to come at this with a different angle. Like, I need to know the difference. Is this way working? If it's not working, then I need to try a different way. And like we've both said, like, incredibly forgetful. I will get up, I will roll on the ground for 30 minutes, but also I have learned the things that are priorities. And like, for example, just this morning, we were talking about the timing in the morning, because it makes Jack very, very anxious that I just dilly-dally.
Right.
And I'm not worried about it.
Right. And you are not stressed by it. Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the things that is weird, I'm pretty good at time estimation. Like, I know that that's one of those.
That is weird. I'm terrible.
It's one of those ADHD skills, but like my ability to guesstimate how much time something is going to take is pretty spot on. Maybe that's my anxiety.
That's amazing.
But this morning,
that's great.
He was like, what time do you think we need to leave the house to get to school on time? And I was like, we need to be there at 8. I think that we need to leave at 7:53. Like, And that will give us.
You're that spot on. Holy shit,
Oh, yeah,
Laura, that's
yeah.
incredible.
And mind you, that gives me a 2-minute leeway. So like, I'm going to start getting the shoes on at like 7:51 because I know how long it takes. This also makes my mom really nervous because I'm down to the wire.
Because you're down. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like having the thing of like, I'm not in a hurry because I know down to the minute. And you're just like, the people around you are like sitting on the edge of their seats. Like, what? She's going to do it. Is she going to make it? That's like a minute to win it every single morning.
Yes.
That's stressful.
Yeah.
As a person who cannot estimate time, that would be like, oh my God. Like this is no way that's going to take 10 minutes. Nope. I got it down to a science.
But it is like, it's challenging when other kids, like the kids are in the mix. And so I can't really account for if they're going to resist me or not. But even then, like I can sort of track and estimate that time based on vibes. So, I mean, yeah, those are lessons that I have learned over time, and it's because of messing up or being late, or it's just skills that I've had to brush up on.
Yeah, because, and that's the thing, like you have those skill development opportunities because someone else wasn't assuming that responsibility for you. Do you know what I mean? Like that's what's bonkers is that it's like, if you had just continually blamed other people and your mom, your like friends, like partners, it would be, you would not have that skill set.
Right. And I'm sure, I mean, this is something my mom and I fought about like constantly throughout high school. Because I was not learning that skill well. I was like really not learning that skill.
Sure. Yeah.
And that was rough for everybody, but I eventually learned it. And I imagine that as a mother, I'm going to really struggle letting my kids suffer the consequences on that one. Because here's the thing. I failed the 2 morning classes and it didn't let me graduate because I didn't get to school.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And, that was a really rough lesson, and it could have been a lot worse. I did end up graduating, but I don't know what the right answer is, but ultimately it was my responsibility.
And it's hard too, to like, especially when you resonate or when something resonates with you because you experienced it. Like it's really hard to watch someone you love go through that. And I think in this Am I the Asshole, like the insult to injury is him yelling at her when she does wake him up and that he's grumpy in the mornings. And then it's like, to me, and again, we're making a lot of assumptions, but it sounds like there's a lack of self-awareness on his part, or a self-reflection of curiosity of like, oh yeah, that's true. Like getting up in the, because if you've had ADHD since you were a kid, there are a lot of stereotypes that, just kind of like there was a lack of curiosity and interest in like the nuance of what that looks like as an adult, because it's considered like a childhood issue. But that's a lot of ADHDers. Our brains are wired to be up late at night and to thrive and be more creative and aware at night. And in the mornings, sluggish, grumpy, like I need to wake up to the day. And not know, like I know that about myself now. So my first appointments don't start till 9, right? So like, I just know that about myself. But when you don't have that self-awareness and you blame somebody else for it and then get mad at them after you've asked for help with it, and it's not that they haven't done it, but it's that you haven't executed on it, that's internal. You're taking stuff that's upsetting you about yourself and projecting it onto somebody else. And that's not okay.
Yeah. And that's this thing about ADHD always comes up. It seems like it always comes up in these conversations. But this pushing off the responsibility happens a lot of times, like outside of the, ADHD, I feel like it's used.
Oh yeah.
Comes up in these conversations. Hold on. What am I trying to say? I don't know what I'm saying.
Are you saying that it's like used as an excuse? Like a lot of times it's used as like a scapegoat.
I don't think I want to say that because I don't want to record that. Okay. Crystal, can you read? I'm curious if there's any additional information that might give us a little clarity to this. Can you read the rest of it?
Yes. So the one edit says, I feel like I should mention more to the reason I don't want to wake him up. It's not like I can't since I'm already awake, but first of all, this affects my day too. I can't go to sleep before him because our bedroom doesn't have a door, and then in parentheses, small apartment. So if he's watching TV or gaming, it keeps me awake. This means I don't get enough sleep either. So when I have to do uni work during the day, in parentheses, before I have work in the evenings, I zone out and usually fall asleep. Physically can't keep my eyes open, which is why I wish I could keep sleeping for an hour or so longer without having to worry if he got up or not. But I also don't want this responsibility. Because I love him. I want him to be independent. And I know we're in a relationship and we're supposed to depend upon each other. And we do, but I don't want him to depend upon me to get to work on time or to keep his economy in check or anything that would turn his life upside down should we break up. I need to know he can take care of himself in case something happens. Do you have additional thoughts based on that info?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is she saying that he keeps her up all night and then she's waking up earlier to wake him up? Like just to wake him up? Is that what I picked up?
That's what I picked up. I can't go to sleep before him because our bedroom doesn't have a door. So if he's watching TV or gaming, it keeps me awake. This means I don't get enough sleep either. So when I have to do uni work during the day, parentheses, before I have work in the evenings, I zone out and usually fall asleep. I can't keep my eyes open. So she's falling asleep at school, like in class, because she's so tired, which is why I wish I could keep sleep. So she's waking him up and then not going back to sleep for an hour or longer because she's worrying that he's not getting, like, she has to wake up and stay up to keep him on task. That's a parent.
Yeah, 100%. The way she made it, the way that I thought it was going on before this edit was, I thought their alarms were going off at the same time. And she was just like shoving him and being like, hey, buddy, you got to get up. It's time for us to get up.
Yeah.
Do you, if you were living with somebody, if you had a roommate and you were living in a small room with them and you liked to stay up late gaming or watching TV, how would you handle that?
Okay. So being socialized as a woman, because I think that's
as a person,
because I think that plays a lot into it, right? Like, at least as a person, I was also, I feel like it also contextually. Okay, here's something that's really interesting. My brain ping-ponged off of like 4 things when you said that. Because as a person who grew up in a big family, I grew up knowing the value and the respect for other people to, if someone's sleeping, shut the fuck up. Mm-hmm. Like, you shut the fuck up. Because in my family, there was always a baby sleeping. So shut the fuck up. You're going to wake the baby up. And if you wake the baby up, mom's going to be really pissed at you. Don't fucking wake the baby up. Shut up. So growing up, right? Like, it's our youngest, there's a 4-year age gap between our middle and our youngest. The youngest has no concept of shutting up while everybody's sleeping. Because she's like, why? And I'm like, because I'm going to freak out if you wake everyone up. Like, and
yeah,
I did a consultation. This is a shout out to our friends Flint and Shiloh, who we're going to have on the podcast soon. But Shiloh does neurodivergent like coaching for all kinds of people. But I called him and I was like, you got to help me with one of my kids. And he pointed out, like, developmentally, our youngest is in a space where she has grown up thinking the world revolves around her, because developmentally that's appropriate. Now she's making this transition where she's discovering the world is not supposed to revolve around her. She needs to take into account everybody else's feelings and thoughts and, like, not cater to them, but be aware that she's not the person that we're catering everything to, right? Because that turns into a dynamic that makes me burn out. I feel like a lot of people don't learn that. Mm-hmm. Like, I had roommates in college who who set multiple. I don't understand the value of setting 10 alarms. If you don't wake up with the first one, and I will give you grace to say maybe the second one, you're not getting up on alarms 3 through 10. So stop waking me up every 5 minutes. That's not nice. So if I was gaming, I get a pair of headphones, and I also learn to not verbalize while I'm gaming. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't make any sense to me.
Right. That is, I mean, thanks. The Sharper Image also has wireless headphones that you could listen to your TV with.
Yeah.
I feel like, that's one of those things. I do know, I don't know, maybe my husband would disagree with this. I think a couple of alarms are fine. That's like one of those compromises that we've come up with because I've always needed like 15 alarms, but can somehow, I know the one, 7:12.
Right.
Is this making everybody anxious that I wake up at 7:12? I leave the house at 7:50 and I get them to school at 8.
At 7:51, you put your shoes on. It's making me anxious. I'll tell you what. But I do think as a teacher, it makes sense to you because, like, you know how school starts at like fucking 8:13 for no reason. And you're like, okay, sounds good. Drives me insane. But also what you said there is very key. It's the compromise that you guys have come to, right? It's the compromise that you've come to. It's not deal with it.
No,
do you know what I
not.
mean? And disrespecting her sleep very much feels like deal with it. And then I'm mad at you for waking me up. It's like, or mad at you for not, this is a no-win situation for her because either she wakes him up and he's pissed off, or like, that's a very parental dynamic. That's a teenager mom dynamic.
Okay.
Teenager parent dynamic.
Let me reread that last bit so we can hammer that point home. She says, but I don't want this responsibility because I love him. I want him to be independent, and I know we're in a relationship and we're supposed to depend on each other. And we do, but I don't want him to depend on me to get him to work on time or to keep his economy in check or anything that would turn his life upside down should we break up. I need to know he can take care of himself in case something happens. That's so weird. How old are they? He's
20,
they're both
25. They're both 25. They're young.
It's so weird. Like, who woke you up? And okay, here's the other thing. I got married when I was 27. You got married really young.
Yeah, I got married at 22. Yeah.
It fucks me up that so many people go from living with their parents to living with their spouse.
Yep.
I would never want that for my kids. I would never want that. I had roommates, and then I think I always had roommates. I think it would have been nice to live alone for a while, but you know, I'll probably encourage my kids to do that. But you just learn so much. You just don't know. People jump into these relationships expecting like, oh yeah, I mean, people rely on each other. That's important. And it's like, this is not interdependence. This is not interdependence.
No.
This is not reciprocal. That's not what this is.
Not reciprocal care. Mm-mm.
But and even then it's like, okay, if you're waking your partner up, cool, fine. If you're helping them with your finances, okay, cool, fine. Some people are better at stuff. Some people are not good at stuff, but this is still not you depend on me, I depend on you situation. She's like, if I go away, he's going to die. He's going to not have money. He can't have a job without me. That's okay. If that's true, what are you going to do about it?
If that's true, ruh-roh. Like, we need to like really think about this.
Yes. There needs to be a conversation. There needs to be consent. There needs to be like, sometimes people can't work. Okay. Right. Now what? What? Are you going to get mad at her because she didn't wake you up, even though she never agreed to that?
Right. And that's the thing too. I think it's like, it's even because even in situations where folks can't work or they're disabled by their ADHD or by extenuating circumstances that they cannot control, I'm trying to think of someone that I personally know who does not take responsibility for what they can control and what they can put into place in order to care for themselves, right?
Yes.
Be that a caregiver, be that advocating for, mutual aid where they receive care from someone else and provide something to that person. Like I definitely can see the tie with like weaponized incompetence where it's like, you're making something that is her problem, something that is clearly not her problem.
Yeah. 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 That's the thing. It's like, I have a couple of friends who can't work, who are unable to work and still show up in a caring way in their partnerships,
Right.
and are still like, that doesn't mean that there aren't big chunks of time that are very challenging to maintain relationships, and things are really hard, or they need additional care, or they can give additional care. Like it's so unfortunate that individual needs end up being misinterpreted or misused or manipulated. And like, it feels really hard to talk about this because it boils down to good faith. It boils down to being caring. And this is like not a caring thing to do, to put something on somebody else without an agreement or an acknowledgement. And that's the other thing. There's no acknowledgement of what it's costing her.
Right.
Because like, yes, as somebody who has needs that can sometimes be very challenging to deal with, I know it's hard to be around me sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's my responsibility to acknowledge the impact that my needs and accommodating me sometimes, it's hard. And I have to acknowledge that. It's my responsibility to at least do that.
Right. And because of that, I feel the same way, right? It is my job to try and have indicators so that I can also inform my partner, hey, I don't think I'm doing well. Like, I just like want you aware so that we can kind of try and game plan together. Right. So we can figure out what we're doing. Because that is the kind of partnership that we agreed to enter into together. And so it's very hard. I would be willing to say it's impossible to engage with your partner in that way if they aren't willing to be that self-aware or to have that engagement in that way. Yeah.
Okay. Another tricky part of this comes down to, I feel like some people are just not taught that matters. Like to be self-aware or to like develop self-awareness is not like a thing we should do.
Okay.
And that's where it's up to her to be like, right. Am I willing to do this?
Right. And to know that like, she is not the asshole if she decides that that's not what she's willing to do.
Right. It is, you should be, I don't love that word should, but like ideally you would have transparency about what you're getting into and like be in a situation willingly. And it feels like at this point she's like trapped, or like she feels trapped. Stuck. She feels like she's trapped. And that's not fair.
Absolutely.
For him either. For him, don't you like not want your partner to feel totally trapped and as if they have no out?
Right. And so then they have to come to Reddit to figure out if they're an asshole for telling you no. And like having that to like being able, that it's informed consent, right? Yeah. It's the thing of like, oh, I wasn't aware that this is what I was dealing with, like all in. And so I'm not willing, like, this isn't something that I'm able to like give my time or energy for. I don't agree to this now that I have all the information. Which again is hard, but would be easier if he had the self-awareness to be able to tell her, like, this probably would play out differently, right? And be a much healthier situation.
Yeah. And don't you think like, she doesn't say anything about like she doesn't really talk about a future together so much. But you've said this before. Like, you think this is going to get better? You think that this is going to be the last situation where your feelings and the impact that a situation has had on you, it hasn't been disregarded or ignored or dismissed?
Yeah, especially they've been together just over a year, she says. And so it's like, yeah, this isn't like, if it's not my tendency would be to believe, like, it's that whole thing of like, when people tell you who they are, believe them. Right. So it's a thing of like, if it's not this, it's going to be something different down the line. Right. And like you said, is this going to get better, or is this just going to progressively get worse if the issue is like him not taking personal responsibility for his own stuff? What else are you going to get blamed for?
Yeah. Yikers, not the asshole.
No. Full endorsement, not the asshole.
Not the asshole. Okay, let's put a link up here. And if you all didn't know, we have some ADHD tools that you can get. You can get it on our Patreon and on our website. We have downloadables. And you have a workshop, correct?
I do. I have a workshop. That is for parents, for neurodivergent parents, specifically ADHD and autistic parents who are late diagnosed, who are trying to figure out how to accommodate themselves, how to accommodate their kids, and how to navigate yourself and them at the same time. Because what the fuck, that is very hard.
Yeah.
That's available on my website.
Very hard. Awesome. Yeah, let's put those links in the show notes. And if you want to support us, you can subscribe, you can review us, you can join Patreon for free or a paid membership and support that way. That's it.
Yeah. We have our September book club coming up, which is Touched Out by Amanda Monte. So I want to plug that. That one is free to everybody. But if you want, we meet weekly with our Patreon supporters of any tier, but everybody's welcome to come. And I love those meetings. Those meetings on Tuesdays ground my week. It's been so great to be able to just like talk about what's going on with you guys and talk about what's going on with us. And it just makes it a really awesome, safe space to talk about whatever.
Yeah. We talked about, sorry, I'm just going to keep yapping.
Go for it. Yeah.
This last week, we talked about bedtime battles and like showers. And not everybody who comes has kids or is even partnered. We just talk about all sorts of things. And we were talking about how, like, I mean, I had an 1.5-hour fight with my youngest about getting in the shower last night. But the other one will like totally space out. And she is me. I am her. We are we. And so we were talking about like personal struggles with the shower being boring and then like totally getting distracted once you're in there. And then this is exactly what happened last night. One of them was, I left her alone for 1.5 minutes. I came back. She was on the bottom of the shower, just like like pretending to swim. And I got in there and what did she say to me? She was like, oh, she said this to Jack the other night. I don't know where she picked this up. She goes, okay, what happened was, and just
she's like, okay, what happened was, I need to explain. Oh my God, that's so funny. She's like, I know how this looks, but let me explain to you the reasonable reason that I'm on the shower floor pretending to swim. What had happened was.
And then the little one fought me. And so to one of the people who came, and she said that she deals with the same thing at her household, something showed up on my For You page today. And it was like about a child, just like after fighting you, just like playing and having a great time in the shower. So relatable.
Living their best life.
We talk about stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. We would be happy to have you in that crazy hot mess space. Absolutely. Oh my God.
Okay. So we'll talk to you all next time. Bye. Thanks for joining us on another episode of Time to Lean. Your questions and stories are what keep us going, so keep those voicemails and messages coming.
Until our next episode, remember that you can always find us on social media and, of course, in your podcast feed. You can also subscribe for $5 a month on Spotify for uninterrupted episodes and bonus content.
We're so grateful for your support. See you next time.